All right, we're going to just waste a little bit of time while a few more people sign on. Tonight we're going to be talking about unlocking cruising rallies. Now, cruising rallies have been around for a number of years and they've gained in popularity. And part of that, I believe, is that people now are cruising longer distances. More of them are going. So a few housekeeping issues. When you write a question, write it to all down in the chat box. Write the question to everybody, and that way Etta, who's working with me here, can read the questions, and then she'll field the questions back to me, and that makes it life a little easier. The other item is feel free to ask questions as much as you want. This is an interactive webinar. I suggest you make yourself comfortable, grab a cocktail, because when this is over, I'm sure as hell going to have a cocktail. And then we're going to go into more into these cruising rallies. Now, a little bit about me. I've raced a lot of sailboats, and I've raced my entire life. But one of the things that a lot of people don't know is I spent a tremendous amount of time cruising as a child. And as I got older, I wasn't cruising quite as much, and then in the last 10 years, I've cruised quite a bit. I cruise about 1,000 miles a year because I participate in a couple different rallies every year. I do some of it on my own with other friends. We go to different Mexican ports, or when I'm up in the Pacific Northwest, go out to different San Juan Islands. And so I do a tremendous amount of cruising, and that's where I felt like there's a way to help people do this. And once you hear about these rallies, you're going to understand a little bit more about what they are and that maybe they are what you want. So I think we'll get rolling here. We got a little bit smaller crowd. We're 2 minutes in. I'll wait another minute before we really get going on the webinar. But like I said, questions to everybody when you ask them in the chat. There's a little chat box down at the bottom of your screen. And I would tell you how to fix the sound problem, but if you can hear me, that doesn't do any good. So now we'll get working on the rallies. So what is a rally? A rally is not a race. So this was a definition in one of the rally front pages. Although some decide it's a race because they always want to sail the maximum amount of miles, be the first one there, that's great. But it's a way to get help in your blue water or your cruising without trying to learn the hard way by making the mistakes. There's usually someone that knows a little bit more about it, or a few people that know more about it, and definitely a group that know more about certain subjects and different things with boats. And so this is where the rallies are really, really important. And I think once you see what they have to offer and understand them a little bit more, you'll realize that if you're going to go cruising and you don't have a ton of experience, it's a great way to go. Or if it's the first time your boat's done blue water, it's a great way to go. So why should you participate? Well, there's safety in numbers. You have multiple people. You have different people reading weather. You have different people checking things. There's lifelong friendships. A lot of people I know have, from these rallies, like some of the early Baja people are best friends, and that's been going on 27 years. So it's really good friendships. Smaller groups to the same destination later on. When the rally's over, your cruising isn't necessarily over. This was just a hand-holding exercise through the original stages of it. And smaller groups take off and might go to the Galapagos, or go to Hawaii, or go to the Caribbean, or Panama Canal. So there's smaller groups go forward, and it's always good to have a buddy boat system. Children meeting children. If you have children on the boat, rallies are an excellent way so that your kids can socialize, and one group can have the kids on the boat while you have some alone time fixing stuff or back and forth. It's really highly successful for people with children. Resources, spare parts, knowledge on water makers and charging systems, charts, everything like this. When you catch a fish, often the fish is too big just to feed you. You can feed 2 boats with a single fish. These things are awesome. And the biggest thing for some of these rallies, it's a deadline quit working on your boat, quit fiddling around, and just untie the dock lines and leave. And I would say that a couple of these rallies, it's really been a big part of getting people just using their boat rather than postponing a month, and now hurricane season comes in and you don't get out. So these rallies give you a deadline in when you need to be done and just cast off the lines and go. It gives you a target date, gives you a good goal. So problems that can and have occurred that I've been part of, because I do the Baja Haha every year, and we run a cruising rally up in the Pacific Northwest, the 48 degrees north rally. Problems that do occur is torn sails. Now, I started repairing sails, and we don't even charge for repairing sails during the Haha. We just want people to get to their destination. Broken water makers, that's a big one, because without water, you're screwed. Engine issues. Outboard engines, inboards, diesel, fuel problems. We have had people from every boat fixing these. There is no doubt there's going to be, out of 100 boats, 5 or 6 of them are going to have problems that are going to keep them from going on unless they have somebody that can help them get that going and going forward. Lost anchors. I was personally a beneficiary of this. Fouled props. If you're going in Mexico or the Pacific Northwest has crab pots or has logs down here when you go into Mexico, every harbor you can go into has at least a small fishing village, and there are lobster pots. And every year, without fail, somebody or multiple people get fouled props. There's people with diving gear or other things that can fix it, because there's a whole landslide of things that can happen once your prop is fouled. We had a guy last year that actually sucked his Genoa into his prop, and then he didn't have any steerage because the Genoa was under the boat tight, and so there's people that stood by. So there's a lot of things that are really good. Broken steering. When you go out for the first time blue water sailing, whether you're racing or cruising, the first 2 days is more hours that your boat's probably been used in any single year up to that point. If you look at 48 hours of constant use, it's hard to reach that on just a little weekend here and a weekend there and a weekend here and 5-hour trips and 3-hour trips that first time. So things that fatigue a lot faster when you go offshore, and having people that know how to fix it with spare parts or resources to get you spare parts, that's really important. Electrical issues are really common. Charging issues. I would bet that we have 15 boats every Haha, maybe 20 boats with charging issues. Some of them get resolved, some don't get resolved. But there are people along that have the tools and the equipment, and just a second set of eyes in on a problem can often solve that. And we had that on the Cascadia Valley a few years back. Somebody's boat wasn't charging, and the guy had the voltmeter, and he went down there and figured out it was loose wire in the alternator. It was all fixed within a matter of a half hour, but this guy had been dealing with it for 2 days. So medical issues. We've a few times had where there was a medical emergency, and once in a while, one of these cruisers has a test kit for something or medication for that thing, or they're a nurse or a doctor. When we do a lot of these rallies, we ask them what they do for a living, and we ask them if we can add them to the medical professionals list. So if you have an issue, sometimes it's hurt shoulder. We had a guy that hurt his shoulder severely when 2 other people fell overboard one year, so we had to go rescue the 2 other people and help the guy that was only the guy on the boat. His shoulder was bad. We had people that had to be driven along a beach, and then this massive trip to get to a place with, I believe, a kidney problem. We had a urinary tract infection where somebody had a test kit for that. There's been things that you just can't really even anticipate. So when you're traveling with a group, this becomes a much, much better scenario. So here are some of the more popular rallies. The Baja Haha is obviously the biggest one in North America. It is anywhere, I'll go into details on it. The ARC Rally, which is the Atlantic Rally for Cruisers, which goes from the Canary Islands down to the Caribbean. And then the 48 North Cruisers Rally, which is a newer rally. It's going on its 3rd year up in the Pacific Northwest. That one's designed for people that really have never anchored or just bought a boat or just wanted to go with a group because they don't know whether boaters are a certain member of a club. It's been a huge success. The Salty Dog Rallies out of Virginia, there's 4 rallies. One's down there, down to the Caribbean, one's up to Maine, and then the return on both those. So the Salty Dog Rallies are really popular. And then there's 2 rallies that are slightly different than the other rallies, and they're not truly virtual rallies, but they're run from the shore side, and they're more like a club or a group, and they share resources. And I'm going to go into those 2, and that's the Panama Posse and the Cohohoho. So the Baja Ha Ha Rally. Now, most of you have heard this, and I'm going to go into it because a lot of people think it's one thing, and then some people think it's another, but I've been on many of them, and it was eye-opening for me going on. The first one that I went on in 2013 was what a great event this was. And it wasn't a great event because you could party. If you wanted to party, you could party. But it was a great event as far as how the support of all the cruisers went. It was an amazing event. It's between 100 and 200 boats. It's San Diego to Cabo San Lucas. It's 2 stops down the Baja coast. The second stop, I'm going to show you some pictures. Amazing place. And it starts November 1st this year, if all things if they go smoothly. It will start on November 1st, and it's 10 or 11 days, and it gets you down to Cabo. And it's a great event, really well run, great information all the way down. So the Baja Ha Ha, it was originally done as kind of a fun way to get down to Cabo because the racers were getting down there, and then they'd have this big party in Cabo. And it went down pre the race, and kind of everybody ended up in Cabo at the same time. And Latitude 38 started it when Richard Spindler owned Latitude 38. Now Richard runs just the Baja Ha Ha, and he sold Latitude 38, but they're still involved heavily in this rally. And this is a great event. And if you've never been to Mexico, it's really the best way to cruise into Mexico. So it starts in San Diego. We started one morning. All the boats leave at the same time. The press comes down, and then they take off and sail. And within 5 or 6 hours after you start, you don't hardly see a boat until you get down to the first stop, which is Turtle Bay. And this is the party the night before we leave. This is where everyone gets all the registration, make sure all the waivers are signed, and then they have a final meal of like hamburgers, because you're not going to see a hamburger, you're not going to see a good hamburger for a while once you head south. So they have that going on, and they have a little costume party, and they try to just get everybody in a good mood, ready for the trip. Now, only about half the people actually attend this party, and it's still a big party because when you have 100 boats and you have 4 to 5 people per boat, that's a big deal, and then a couple guests. So there. Our first stop's in Turtle Bay, and as you can see, this is the fleet in Turtle Bay. But look at how big the bay is. So if you want to be by yourself, there is desolate beaches upon desolate beaches at the stops on the Ha Ha. And the part of the beauty and one of the things I really liked about it is when you pull into Turtle Bay, there's a radio net, and they'll talk about the hazards coming in and out of the bay. Other boaters will talk about the hazards, like, hey, there's a lot of lobster pots on the north side or the south side. There's a lot of kelp, and where the better anchorages are. They also will explain who to buy your fuel from and who not to buy your fuel from. And generally, all the people are quite nice, but any place has people that want to take advantage of the crowd. So that's all figured out for you. You don't go in there blind and get a bunch of stuff stolen or lost or get you're raked over the coals for your fuel. They explain every option for fuel, and you're welcome to do what you want. They also have a beautiful baseball field. The only beautiful part on land of Turtle Bay is this baseball field, and we play a game against the kids, and we donate a bunch of Little League stuff to them every year. So then the night before you leave Turtle Bay, the day before, I guess I should say, they have a beach party, and you can go there, and they play music, and the locals sell you cheap beer and tacos, and other people barbecue, and they have volleyball and tug-of-war and frisbees. And obviously, all these parties are optional. Now, this is quite a ways from town, not by boat, but by road, so only a couple locals show up, and it's a beautiful, this long, desolate beach there, and the hiking's quite good there. but they end all the parties around 5 o'clock because they want you back to your boat in the daylight. It's amazing how hard it is to find your boat at night, no matter what you do to make it easy to find. So then you leave Turtle Bay, and you hit this place called Bahia Santa Maria. Now, this place is kind of a magical place. There is nothing there. There's these little tiny shacks that you see down on this little piece of land down there in the middle of your screen. There's a surf break if you're a surfer. There's mangroves that you could paddle through, and it is isolated. It is so beautiful there, and there is nothing there to ruin your view, ruin your time. The fishermen have these pongas for inexpensive. They take you in and out through the surf to this. What we have is we have a beach party, and they call it on the bluffs. And a band comes from La Paz and plays rock and roll music for a couple hours for tips only. And the local fishermen put on a seafood feast, and that's it. And like I said, maybe half or three-quarters of the people go to this, but this is one of my favorite parts of the whole thing because it's just this surreal. The view is outstanding. You're out in the middle of nowhere and you're listening to, classic rock. It's really fun. So then you leave there, you head into Cabo San Lucas. There's one more party in there if you want to go to the party in Cabo. This last year it got canceled because we had a tropical depression come up and the rain got insane in Cabo, and so boats dispersed, and that was the end. And realistically, Cabo is fun for some people, not all, but it's once you're down there, most boats head up to La Paz and they take off. So the Baja Ha Rally is really well run, gives you local information at both the spots, tells you what you're going to be paying for things, and since it's happened every year, there's sort of an infrastructure in place for when you get to those locations, and it's really easy to get welding done and things like that. It's amazing what we have fixed when you're in the middle of nowhere. Now, the Atlantic Rally for cruisers is in November. Now, there's 3 routes now for this. It used to just go from the Canary Islands. There's an interesting fact about the Canary Islands I was telling Ed earlier, is that there are no Canaries in the Canary Islands, and it's the same with the Virgin Islands. There's no Canaries there either. So anyway, there's 3 routes. 2 of the routes have stopovers. So for people that don't want to do 22 days on a sail over, they keep track of people that are just sailing and trying to race, and it's kind of a race, but everyone has a really good time with this, and they end up in the Caribbean. And this is a huge rally. I can't remember the count of boats, but it's in the 200 range, and since it's not North America, I didn't include it in the Baja figures. But anyway, it's a huge rally, very popular, very well run. And so obviously with this COVID-19, we're all looking at November and making sure that all these things are still going to happen, but the websites are very well run. And here's the route. Canary Islands, you can go down to Cape Verdes, over to St. Lucia, or take the straight route. And it's a great delivery for European boats or from U.S. boats back to the U.S. I've known a few people that have been cruising around Europe, and they've come back to the U.S. via the ARC. Now, the Salty Dog Rally, it's actually rallies. There's 4 of them. There's the Fall Rally, which is, I believe, the most popular. It's November from Hampton, Virginia to the Caribbean. And then they have a Spring Rally, which is the homeward bound flotilla, because all the boats are leaving the hurricane season to come up and get up in up north. And then they have a rally to Maine in July, and then they have the Nova Scotia, which is from Maine to Nova Scotia. So they have these 4 rallies. They're very well laid out. They actually have canceled the spring rally this year because it would have started, maybe it would have started last week, but it got canceled, obviously, for obvious reasons. But it's a great rally that between all the legs, I believe they end up with like 400 boats between the 4 different rallies. So it's really well organized, and if you're an East Coaster, this is a great thing to hit. And this is their final stop here. I took that off their website actually. So the 48 Degrees Cruisers Rally up in 48 North Cruisers Rally up in the Pacific Northwest was a new concept that I helped come up with Joe Klein from 48 North. And what we were finding is a lot of people were buying boats, and they were going from dock to dock or going out doing a couple weekends, but people didn't realize that there's more to the San Juan Islands and the Gulf Islands up in Canada than going to marina to marina. That it was, if you could anchor, it opened up thousands of places that you could be by yourself or with just a close group, and there was much more to do. It's 7 days, and we run clinics at night. We give people anchoring techniques. We teach people sail trim. We help people with different things on their boat. We have a music night. It's been great. And to tell you the success is every year, every person that did it the year before were the first people to sign up for the next year. So it's been really, really highly successful. We start in Anacortes. We go through the San Juan Islands, up into the Gulf Islands. This year, I believe we're going to leave Anacortes, go straight to Pender Harbor and at Oats Cove and check in with customs the very first day, because we're going to go up to places up in Todd Inlet and up north a little bit further in the Gulf Islands. And then we come back and we have, a party at the beginning, a party at the end, and then just a lot of educational, and everyone's had a great time with it. We've made incredible friends doing this, and this is we limit this to, I believe we limit it to 25 boats, so sign up early. This is August 1st. I'm pretty sure we're still going to have it, and so we'll keep you informed on the website. So it's on at 48 North. Here's some pictures from last year's, I believe. We do blackberry picking, and I baked the pie while we were sailing in 20 knots of wind there, so it was really fun. The Coho-Ho-Ho, this is one of those ones that it's not really a virtual rally, but it's a group, like kind of a club-style rally, where you start from Seattle and you go to San Francisco, and they track you on the way. They stay in communication with you. They have a seminar series that runs all year, and once you join, you're a lifelong member. You can go to these seminars. They have how to maintain and work on your diesel engine. They have electrical. I did one on sail repair. They have them on anchoring and the best equipment, and it's just every couple weeks they have a new seminar, and it's a huge series of seminars, and here's the route, and it's basically a feeder rally to the Baja. The Coho-Ho-Ho actually ends in San Francisco, but most of the boats, I would say 80% of them, continue on and either come down and join one of the smaller rallies down in Southern California, or they go straight to San Diego, get everything they need fixed, because San Diego is like kind of last stop of with good infrastructure to get stuff done, and then head off on the Baja. So they have live seminars, like I said, all year. They have incredible speakers. They have people that know how to do weather. It's really well done. The seminar series are quite good, and they had live seminars all until this year. Now in the last month and a half, they've gone virtual, so you can watch it from your home because of obvious coronavirus. And they have a big welcome party in San Francisco. They come down there and they throw a party, and everybody gets to meet everybody if you left at different times, so that you become part of this group. Now, the Panama Posse started, I believe it's its third year or fourth year. This is really well done for boats that are trying to head to the Panama Canal or go to points further on. They've worked deals with every marina. They have information on every anchorage. They have a weekly group call where people dial in and they talk about anything that's come up. And this year, with the COVID virus and not knowing what ports were open, everybody that was part of the Panama Posse got a weekly email from everybody that's been through the ports themselves during that time, and kept people up to date the whole time. And throughout the year when boats had trouble, they've notified other they've put out things on social media and found people to help tow boats back from other places. It's really well done. So every week you get a full email that's a newsletter that has everything to do with what each sponsor's doing for them, the deals they've done. They've worked deals with every marina all the way down, so that you get a discounted rate. You get a discounted rate on equipment, on supplies. They have preferred areas to go, and then there's a weekly call, and it's been really well done. And the seminar series that runs the rest of the year while they're not actually traveling, it's great. And it starts in Bar Navidad and then heads to Panama or Puerto Vallarta. So they sort of have kind of two starting places. But the communication has been phenomenal at this, and this is a really easy thing to find on the internet. This was the send-off party in Barra, where they had the newer marina there, and everyone is just had a really good relationship with the way this has gone. So feel free to ask questions if you want. I'm hoping. Oh, we do have a question.
There's
okay.
actually one. Yeah, and Bruce was checking with me too on that. I think it was the Salty Dog Regatta. Where in Maine does that go to?
Ah, that's a good question. I didn't write that down.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, where did the Salty Dog Rally go in Maine? And I can't honestly remember the end spot in Maine where it goes to. But if you go on the Salty Dog Rally, it's spelled D-A-W-G, Salty Dog Rally. The website is phenomenal. I was researching because that's one of the rallies I have not been on, so I actually had to do the research for this. I knew of it. I knew people had been on it, but I had to research it myself. I've been on the the Cascadia, and I've worked really closely with the guys on the Cohohoho and the Panama Posse. So the Ark and the Salty Dog are the only two that I've not been on. So.
We got another question. Is the 48 Cruisers Rally something a bareboat could do?
Oh, absolutely. The question was, is the 48 Cruisers Rally something that a bareboat could do? Absolutely. We actually had talked with some of the guys at the charter boat companies with the bareboat things to get it to work out for them to come along as well. It is for anybody, boats of any size. We've actually had, I believe, a 24-footer that did it one year. And then the biggest boats are, just a little over 40 feet. But yeah, anybody's welcome to come. And we do a lot of rafting up, and you're always welcome to raft up with the mothership. And I'm usually on the mothership. And if you want to anchor on your own, you anchor on your own. It's really flexible on the way we do everything with that 48 North Rally.
And thanks to Bruce, he looked it up. That Salty Dog ends in Rockland, Maine.
Rockland, Maine. I knew. Okay, I knew it. When I start thinking of places in Maine, I have a buddy from Maine, and I think of his accent, so I can't think of anything else. But Rockland, Maine, is where the Salty Dog Rally ends. That's the one. That's one of the more popular ones right now. So
There's another one, but maybe you have a few more.
No.
We're actually okay, because there's a question that applies to all of them. Okay. Good. We're at Q&A. Any advice for someone wanting to be a crew person on any of these rallies?
Yes, the question was, any advice for anybody that wants to be a crew, wants to crew for somebody on any of these rallies? Almost all the rallies have crew boards. Now, probably the most aggressive one is the Baja Haha. They have a party in San Francisco. It's usually in Sausalito or Richmond. It goes back and forth a little bit, and they have the party. When you show up at the party, you have a yellow sticker if you're a boat owner, a skipper looking for crew, and you have a white name tag if you're a crew member looking to crew. And it's a mix to go meet potential people, and they have a thing on their website where you can sign up, and then people can interview. It's one other thing I didn't mention that's a great thing about rallies is generally when you go blue water cruising, you want more than just the two of you, and definitely more than the one of you. And so people bring other crew on. Now, the other crew doesn't always work out. It's a small, confined space. You think this COVID lockdown's hard, be on a boat for a while with somebody. It's a small lockdown space. Sometimes you get along way better than you ever thought you could, and things work out great. Sometimes there's no way it's going to work out. And one of the ha-has I was on, we actually picked up 2 crew members in Turtle Bay because they did not get along with the people that they were with, and so they switched boats. And that was really nice because if they had been cruising by themselves, they would have had a miserable time with all those people. There was nothing wrong with anybody in that equation. It's just they just didn't mix together very well. And so that could have been a very bad situation if they had to cruise together for the whole way down. And so by being in a rally, there's the opportunity for that. And every year, I think we've had somebody on some boat bail off and go on another boat. And that was definitely the case this last year, too.
We still got time for a question. And Bruce is saying here, would the U.S. sailing safety at sea stuff be beneficial?
Yeah, Bruce Cooper from Women's Sails Newport Beach asked this question, would the U.S. sailing safety at sea seminar be beneficial? I think anybody that's boating should do those. And if you're going to go offshore, it's huge. They're not that expensive. They're incredibly well run. And as an offshore racer, we're required to do the safety at sea every 5 years. And I have a very busy schedule. It's hard for me to get a weekend off to do it. And so I dread going to them, and then I come back thinking it was one of the best things I ever did. They teach you some things that there's no way you could figure out on your own. It just gives you that confidence for when you're going offshore. And it's something that you could teach other people in the rally. They gave us all the slides from that safety at sea, and I show people that when we're on the rally. We kind of go over different sections of it all the time.
There's we have more time for questions, so keep them coming. There's another one here.
The only thing you're stopping us from doing is me mixing my rum drink, so we can just keep them going.
Oh, that's... You got any more good jokes, too? The canary joke? Okay. So the question is, are there any requirements as a boat owner to participate in these rallies?
It's up to each rally, and what they're really... The question was, is there any requirements for the boats to participate in these rallies? Each rally has its own requirements, and they make it pretty clear that you are in charge of your boat. They're going to give you information, but you are the captain of your boat, and so if you decide to take a risk, that's on you. And that's really the way it should be. And you need to know what your skill level is. There's no way anybody off of your boat can know your skill level. The Cascadia rally, we've even taken people from our boat, put people on other boats when we've gone through trickier spots to give them confidence. And that's really all that rally is about, is giving people boating confidence and making it so that they feel comfortable doing it. And then we've made lifelong friends doing that. So, but just know that you're responsible for your own boat. They don't allow boats under 22 feet, I believe, on the ha-ha. There's some limit, and I can't remember what the length is. They want you to average. Most of the rallies want you to be able to average 3.5 knots. Otherwise, the rallies would be months long.
Okay, so there's just one comment, but again, we have a few more. We have some more time, but the comment was from Tom. He believes the U.S. Sailing has much of the Safety at Sea course online. So
yeah, you can take the Safety at Sea online as well. The live seminar, the live webinar or seminar you go to, that you go to has a lot of actual situations, like you get in the water with all your foul weather gear on and see if your life jacket inflates. You have to get in and out of a life raft, and you have to practice the huddling in the water to stay warm so you don't get hypothermia. And it goes into and you get to shoot off flares and that kind of stuff. So the live one is a little more intensive, but the online one is quite good, and you're gonna learn something at either one of them.
Well, good. Unless anybody has another question.
You guys have a great evening. Have a beverage on me, and let's go sailing as soon as we can, because this lockdown is not good for any of us.
And when are we back?
And we are back again on Tuesday, and that one is going to be on Racing to Hawaii. So Bruce Cooper, who's on this, he'll have lots of good answers for that, because he's done it on about every size boat. And I've done 13 of them. So if you're interested in Racing to Hawaii, this Tuesday is going to be a great webinar. Have a nice evening, you guys.